Okay, hello and welcome again to my home here in New Zealand. My name is Greg. Today is one of the 31st webinar that we're doing, well, I started doing in lockdown here in New Zealand. We're now out of lockdown, so I hope wherever you're watching that you're very safe and well. Today, I'll run it up for you. Today we're going to look at writing task 1. Now, it's for the academic test. So, with writing task 1, these are the most common types of tasks that you can get. Sometimes you're asked to analyze a graph. Other times you're looking at a process diagram. And other times you have to look at a map, and you have to basically make a 150-word summary of either a graph, a process diagram, or a map. Today, we're going to look at a process diagram. So if you tuned in earlier, you probably have already seen it, but I'm going to let you have a look at this process diagram. At any stage during this webinar, let me know if you have any questions. You can do so on the Facebook page. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to provide a model answer for this particular process diagram question. Now, don't worry if you don't have time to take down all the notes at home. This example will be uploaded to the grade Facebook, or sorry, to the grade blog. So you will be able to find it there as well. So here it is. So what you're asked to do here is summarize the information presented in the diagram. And we're told that the diagram below shows the life cycle of a frog. So hopefully you like my artwork. We can see the adult frog, eggs, early tadpoles or tadpole, late tadpole, and then the froglet. And we're told that this is known as metamorph stage. Now, you might be watching at home thinking, I don't know anything about the life cycle of a frog. Unfortunately, this is one of the difficulties with the test. Sometimes you're going to get a topic that you might not be familiar with. I would say if that's the case, unfortunately, it is bad luck. The good news is that you only have to write 150 words. Essentially, you have 20 minutes to do this. So what will happen on test day, for the writing test, you have part 1 or task 1 and task 2. Doesn't matter if you're doing academic or general training, both of them have a task 1 and a task 2. The task 2, it's suggested that you take 20 minutes and then 40 minutes for task 2. You may finish this faster, which means you have more time to work on task 2. So if you don't know a lot about the life cycle of a frog, please watch, because I'm going to give you my my example answer. If it were test day, you just have to think of anything relating to these 6 stages. Now, even though you only have 20 minutes, as is the case with writing task 2, you still need to think carefully about a plan. So I just wanted to give you a quick outline for how I would answer this. What I would do is I would try to divide this life cycle into paragraphs. The first thing I'm going to do is paraphrase this, right? So just like with writing task 2, we begin with paraphrasing. We're going to paraphrase the information we're given. Now, how would I divide this life cycle into paragraphs? Well, I have a little bit of general knowledge about the life cycle of a frog, which also, relates to other types of creatures as well. So I would look at the egg, larva. So I'll put these into paragraphs, right? That's an R. So this is how I would organize my writing. Again, I would start by paraphrasing what we're given. So always paraphrase that first sentence. Sometimes this is actually 2 sentences, but in this case, it's a very short sentence, but always paraphrase that. Again, you just like with writing task 2, you want to demonstrate to the examiner that you have a range of grammar and vocabulary. So take what's given and paraphrase that. That's a good start. Then I've just divided this life cycle into 3 stages. Each stage would be 1 paragraph. Now, you may do this differently. This is just my idea, and it's a little bit of general knowledge. I've divided it into the egg stage, the larva stage, and then the adult stage. So let's go through each of these. We'll start with the paraphrasing. Now, with the paraphrasing, quite often we get instructions which are similar in different for the different types of tests. So if you have a diagram task, you can expect the instructions to be very similar. So perhaps you can try and memorize the paraphrasing I use here, and then you can just substitute it, the different topic that you get on test day. So this is how I paraphrase this. Okay, you can see that I'm actually adding in an extra sentence, right? So my first sentence is the direct paraphrasing. So instead of saying diagram, I'll get a different pen color so you can see some of the different vocabulary that I'm using. Instead of using diagram, I'm going for graphics, right? So often the instructions will use the expression shows or the word shows. This can be paraphrased as demonstrate. So again, subject verb agreement. Graphics are plural. So graphics, we have basically 6 different images. So this means they're graphics. Demonstrate the development of a frog. Then, comma, I'm adding in a complex sentence, right? So straight away, my first sentence, I want to make it complex if possible. Just show the examiner that I have a wide range of grammar and I can form complex sentences, which is illustrated in 6 stages. So here I'm actually, instead of saying the life cycle of a frog, instead of saying life cycle, I've gone for development. And I'm just adding in a little bit more detail. So there is not much information that we're given. This is actually an example from the grade site. So later, if you want to try it for yourself on the grade site, you can do so. But it's a difficult one because there really isn't a lot of information that we have to work with. So I want to use everything I can to make 150 words. So I'm going to add in that there are 6 stages which are illustrated, right? So just a simple observation. Then just to start off, I've added in an extra sentence. And here is like, this is my preview. This is like a preview as I would use in writing task 2. What I'm doing is I'm previewing what I'm going to talk about in the rest of my summary, right? So, and as you saw before, you already know the 3 stages that I'm going to talk about. So this is going to be paragraph 1, main body paragraph 1. I'll put like this. Main body paragraph 2. And here is my main body paragraph 3. Right, so I just want to start off by paraphrasing. And what I've done here is I've just added in a little bit of a preview about the main body paragraphs that I'm going to talk about in my summary. So really, I've added that one in because, yes, even for me, this is going to take a lot of explanation with not much information. So if you're feeling the same way, I can understand. Let's move on to main body 1. So main body 1, I'm going to talk about the egg stage. So actually, I'll put main body 1 at the top so you know if you've joined in late, I'm now working on main body 1. Okay, so even though I'm focusing on the eggs, I am making a reference to where the eggs come from. Again, we have such little information in the diagram that I just want to bring the diagram to life. So obviously eggs, they must come from a female frog. So I'm just going to add that in. The life cycle of a frog begins with the female frog laying multiple eggs, right? So just want to use some more adjectives, right? So we're not going to count these because this is just a diagram, it's a representation. In the real world, we don't really know how many eggs the frog is going to lay, so multiple is a good word to use there. Now, I'm going to add a bit more detail about the eggs. Each egg has a yolk, and I want to make a complex sentence. This is the main reason why I'm adding in this sentence, which has been colored okay. I think when you get this type of task where it might be something that you're not really familiar with, if you know a lot about frogs and you get this type of question on test day, congratulations, this is going to be easy for you. But if you're like me and you're not really that scientific, then you just have to do the best you can. But my focus here is not trying to demonstrate my knowledge of frogs. It's about trying to demonstrate my knowledge of English. So again, what I'm focusing on in the second sentence here is making a complex sentence, right? Even though the information I've given is not really that complex, I've talked about the eggs having yolks. I said each egg has a yolk, and just for the purpose of making a complex sentence, I've said they are colored in black. And you can see here what I'm doing is I'm using passive voice, right? So again, anything I can do to demonstrate a wide range of grammatical structures, I'm going to do. So making another complex sentence using which, so a relative clause, and I've used passive voice to talk about how the eggs have been colored, right? So again, not really, you wouldn't find this type of writing in a scientific journal. This is just for IELTS writing task 1. My purpose is to demonstrate my working of English. So I'm going to move on to main body paragraph 2, which is about the larva stage, which we can see down here. So again, you can see the types of words I'm using. Maybe you know these words from general English, right? So I've used the word yolk. I'm sure a lot of you eat eggs. You know that the inside of an egg is a yolk. We know that hens, they hatch eggs, right? So I'm just trying to use some general words that you might already know, and just show you how you can incorporate that type of vocabulary into this answer here. So in the beginning of the larva stage, right? So instead of talking about the life cycle of the frog, I'm introducing different stages. An early tadpole, so I'm relating to the actual diagram. So everything's focused on the diagram. Hatches from an egg. Okay, next sentence. Now, instead of saying diagram, I'm just going to use a synonym for diagram. So again, these are the types of synonyms which are good to focus on. If you're studying for the academic IELTS test, you know, in writing task 1, you could be talking about graphs, you could be talking about diagrams. Picture is another way of saying diagram. Now, if you saw my webinar on compound complex sentences, hopefully you can recognize this as a compound complex sentence. So we have our conjunction here, so it's a relative pronoun. We can see from the picture that the tadpole has a long tail, and here's another conjunction, but it has not yet formed any limbs, right? So again, I'm not really using the type of vocabulary that you would find in a scientific journal. I think words like limbs, tail, these are more types of words that we might hear in everyday English. But what I am trying to focus on is using complex and complex compound sentences. I have one more sentence for this paragraph, and I'm going to move on to the next stage of the larva stage. Okay, my last sentence is a compound sentence, and you can tell that because I've used the conjunction and. Again, not really the most complicated vocabulary. I've just talked about how in the late tadpole stage, the tadpole has developed 2 legs and it's grown much bigger. So again, I'm not saying that I'm an expert on frogs. Clearly I'm not, but I'm doing the best I can with limited information, as you may encounter during your test, to just demonstrate especially my use of grammar, right? So you just have to make do sometimes if you do get this type of question. Again, on the grade site, give it a go yourself, but it's only 150 words. So as long as you are describing the diagram, then you're going to be on the right track. Let's move on to the last paragraph, or the last main body paragraph. And this one, in this stage, we're going to talk about the frog, or the adult frog. So instead of saying next, I'm going to say following. Now I'm using the verb form of a word that we are given, right? So here is the noun form, and I've used the verb form here. So metamorphosed. Another complex sentence here. Instead of saying size, I'm going to go for this expression here, double the mass, right? So mass can talk about the size of something. Again, no groundbreaking knowledge here. So I'm just following the diagram. I've said I'm using some definite synonyms. Instead of saying next again, I'm going for following. In the following stage, the tadpole metamorphosed. So I've taken one word which is obviously less commonly used. And again, you don't have to use a synonym. You can just use a different part of speech. So I've used the verb form here. It's metamorphosed into a froglet. And again, another complex sentence, which is double the mass of a late tadpole and now has 4 legs. And here is my final sentence where I'm going to go back to the start talking about the adult frog. And here I'm going to use the diagram for the first time, the word diagram. Now, obviously, I don't want to overuse the words that we're given, but I think it's okay to use them once during my writing. Shows the growth. And this is how I've linked froglet and adult frog together. Another complex sentence. Now, I thought it was really important in this case to really concentrate on the fact that this is a cycle, right? So we can see from the diagram that we have the red arrows showing that, you know, this is a cycle. So I started by talking about making a reference to the adult frog laying eggs, and I finished by connecting these two stages here, the froglet into the adult frog. And I finished by saying complex sentence where, when we get to the adult frog stage, this is where the life cycle will begin again, right? So I've mentioned that it's a cycle as we've been asked to. So again, you can see that I haven't used overly scientific language. I've tried to use words which hopefully you can understand at home. But you can see my real focus here be to try and use complex sentences. Sometimes I was even able to make a compound complex sentence. Yeah, I struggled with this as well. So this is one from the grade side. Not much information in the diagram, but you will or could encounter these type of diagrams on test day or during your own practice where you are not given a lot of information. You have to squeeze everything you can out of it and add in extra stuff to make that 150 words. I think from count, my count was 155 words, so I achieved that part of the task. So you have an example here. Why don't you go onto the grade site and see what you can come up with yourself. Just looking ahead, I want to tell you about the schedule for Thursday, Sunday, and next Tuesday. So on Thursday, which is June the 18th, this is a webinar which is especially for our grade subscribers. We're going to look at reading for the academic test. Now, if you are preparing for the general training test, please tune in because section 3 of the general training reading test is basically the same as any one of the sections for the academic reading test. So great one for all of you to tune in and watch. On Sunday, we always run a replay. That will be June the 21st. The replay this Sunday will be writing task 2. Now, if you do tune in on Sunday and watch the replay, there'll be someone who can answer your questions while you watch. Next Tuesday, this is our public webinar, just like today, June the 23rd. It'll be on the speaking test. All right, so you'll see me being interviewed and giving some model answers. We're going to focus on part 2, right? So I'll make a note here. So I hope you found this one helpful today. If you are watching this as a replay, please ask questions on the Grade Facebook page. Otherwise, I hope that you're safe and you can find the model answer for this one on the Grade blog. Take care.